It's episode 98 of Unstuck, and in today's best of episode, we're taking it back to number 74 and talking about how to stop caring what others think. So, stay tuned. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Unstuck. I'm Shawn, your host on each and every episode, and we are working our way. We're at the number 4 best of episode of the past 94. I hand selected the top 5 most downloaded, most talked about, most listened to, most shared episodes. And we are now replaying them. And I hope you guys are enjoying this. And I hope, most importantly, you are seeing how this work, like what we talk about here on Unstuck, it has a different tone and you take something out of it just the more you hear it, just depending on where you're at in your life and what's going on in your life. And as we all know, life changes at the drop of a hat and every day brings something different. So as you're re-listening to these episodes, I hope you're seeing and maybe taking a different spin based on what you're hearing this time as opposed to when you heard it the first time. And that's really the goal here. But we are so close to episode 100. We're going to do something great there to celebrate making it into the triple digits. But first, we have 2 more episodes to get through of our best of. And today we're talking about how to stop caring what others think. This is one that comes up a lot in Unstuck Entrepreneur, in the work I do with clients and working on their businesses and helping to grow and build and expand those businesses. One of the major blocks that comes up is caring what others think or assuming that others are going to say something or judge you or have some sort of opinion of you and your business. And we've got to take that power back. And that is what we do in this episode. So without further ado, let's head into episode 74, How to Stop Caring What Others Think. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Unstuck podcast. I'm Shawn, your host of Unstuck, and I'm so grateful to have you here listening to this episode and listening to every other episode you've been through, whether this is the first one and now you got to go back into the archives, or you've been with me from day 1, which has been over a year now of weekly episodes. I'm so grateful for all of you. As I mentioned in last week's episode, I had a little situation that happened in my life with some of my friends that prompted me to have ideas for 2 different podcast episodes, last week's episode and this week's episode. And if you haven't listened to the last episode yet, let me just catch you up real quick. Basically, I opted out of our typical friend group's Secret Santa this year. And you can find out why, you can find out what all went down by going to last week's episode and taking a listen, episode 73. I highly recommend that episode. It will really shed a light on a lot of things in our society right now. But anyway, after that happened, after I opted out, I spent like 24 hours worrying about what my friends were thinking of me and that decision. Now, let me just tell you right from the get-go that up until about 4 years ago, I cared massively about what other people thought of me. I basically didn't even remotely care about what I thought of me and only cared what other people thought of me. And so this feeling of worrying about what my friends were thinking of me was nothing new. It was actually quite familiar, just like an old friend coming back to visit, but it had been a while. It was something that hadn't happened in quite some time for me. So I was a little taken aback by it. And especially because in that particular situation, it really wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like I had done anything to upset anyone or to hurt anyone or anything like that. So it was very strange for me. So where did it come from then if it wasn't a big deal and if it's something that I've been working on so much in my own life to not care what other people think? Where did this crazy feeling come from that I thought was gone? Well, here we are talking about that darn subconscious mind again. Yep, it was my subconscious mind at play because for me, I can trace all the way back to when I was like in 6th grade that I started caring what other people think. And specifically with my group of friends. I was the oddball of my friend circle from 6th grade on. They had all been friends like since preschool, and then I got kind of initiated into the group in 6th grade. They all lived in the same neighborhood. They all wore the same name brand clothes. They all had the same name brand shoes. They all had the same bike. Like everything was the same. And then there was me. I didn't have any of that. I didn't wear name brand clothes. I didn't wear name brand shoes. I didn't live in the same neighborhood. I always had to be, my parents had to drive me over and drop me off if I wanted to play with any of them. So I was constantly trying to fit in with this group. And, you know, I'm still friends with them today. They're great ladies, all that stuff. But in 6th grade, when I am highly impressionable and I'm still developing my subconscious mind and my programming, that feeling and those thoughts and that idea really stuck with me. I felt like I had to prove myself to them. And in the process of doing so, I lost who I was and I lost what I thought. And I really only looked to them, to my friend group, for approval at that point. And now, even though it's been almost 30 years, my mind is still programmed to do that exact same thing. In those 30 years, and especially over the past probably 3-4 years, I haven't experienced it. I haven't been in that scenario. I honestly didn't know it was even still an issue because I'm not really ever in that situation until last week. And it all came bubbling back up to the surface, and it really made me want to talk about it here on the show and want to talk about caring what other people think in general, because we all do it. We're all programmed to do it. It's actually in our DNA to care what other people think. We're going to talk about all of this. But at the same time, it also really affects us. It really impacts our day-to-day lives in some cases. If you're an entrepreneur, it may be keeping you from being who you fully are and showing up in your unique way and creating a business that you want and being as successful as you want. All because we are caring what other people think. And I know so many of you just want to get rid of it. And we're going to talk about all of that today. Before I do, I want to tune you into something new that I have for you. I have created a meditation for you. I think you all know by now. And if you're new to the show, let me just tell you right here, right now, I love meditating. I'm actually almost 300 days consecutive meditation. I've almost gotten there. I'm super excited for that. I love it. I do it every day. I really think it is must do for every person out there that wants to get unstuck. It's been a life-changing experience for me, a life-changing experience for so many other people that I know. And so I recorded a meditation just for you. And even better, it's a meditation to help you connect with your intuition. Again, if you have been listening to the show, y'all know I'm all about the intuition, the intuitive guidance, our inner voice, our inner being. Love everything to do with that. Really, again, something that has been so life-changing for me to start experiencing in my own life and being led by my intuition in my business. So I have created not only a meditation, but a meditation to connect with your intuition. And if you want that, all you have to do, you have 2 ways that you can get your hands on my free guided meditation for you. The first way is to leave a review for this podcast. Leave a review, take a screenshot of your review before you submit it. Once you submit it, you may not ever see it again. It goes into this like weird abyss. Take a screenshot and send me that screenshot over in my Instagram DMs. That's really where I do all of my communicating these days. So head to Instagram at Shawn Mynar and send me that photo of your review for Unstuck. And then I will immediately send you over a link to that meditation. So that's one way. The second way is to share you listening to the podcast on your social media and tag me and let me know. So you listening to the podcast, what episode you're loving. You can do it in stories. You can do it on your feed, wherever you feel is great. And just tag me so I can see it, and I will immediately DM you a link to this free guided meditation. Okay? Super fun. I'm excited for you to have that at your disposal. I think you will love it, and you can listen to it as many times as you want. You can have it forever. It's all yours. All right, let's get into this episode, starting with a quote from who else? Dr. Seuss. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. Again, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. How cute is that? Oh, I love it so much. Those who mind, those who care what you say, what you think, what you feel, they don't actually matter. They're not your people. And those who matter to you won't mind you being yourself. In fact, they will love that you are being your own unique self. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's literally baked into our DNA to care what others think. We are tribal beings. We survive and thrive in groups, and we always have. And our ability to survive actually was dependent upon us fitting in and staying connected to our group, to our community, to our tribe. So if we want to erase completely the thought of us caring what other people think, it's probably not going to happen. It's still within me. It probably always will be. And it may be for you too. So I feel like stopping isn't really the appropriate word. Instead, what we can think of it is more so muting what other people think of you. And we're going to do so, we're going to look at it here in a couple different ways. First, building awareness and understanding the behavior. Second, properly managing it so that it doesn't cause unwanted emotion, stress, fear, etc. All those unwanted emotions, low vibe emotions. And lastly, how can we get back to making what we think about ourselves the most important thing, which is really, really all there is to it. All right, first, going into awareness and understanding. As you can see in my story I just told you, I was able to dig up what had happened in the past to get me where I was at that moment. I was able to see, okay, this is how I'm feeling in this scenario where I just kind of went against the grain with my friend group. I'm almost 40 years old. And why is this still impacting me in this way? Well, this also happened, and I can remember it and really see that first time it happened at that point in 6th grade when I became friends with this group. It's a very similar feeling to me. I was able to go back and see that. If you have the ability to do that, to dig up your story, it really does help. For me, it helps me see that it was something in my life that happened to create this programming, to create this belief within me. And from there, I can also see that it's something I don't need to hold on to any longer. It's something that doesn't apply to me anymore. It's something that isn't necessary in order to stay safe in my group. So can you find that for yourself? When did you start caring what people thought of you? Knowing that when you were a baby or when you were 4 or 5 years old, that wasn't necessarily the case. Maybe it was. Maybe that's when it started for you. But can you trace it back to when that shifted in you? When did that program get installed in the hardware of your subconscious mind? Some of the possible stories that are behind caring what people think, especially if you're like, I think I could probably figure that out, but I'm not quite there yet. Even if you just start with some of these overarching themes or stories of caring what other people think, then that kicks off the investigation, I guess we can say, to where you can get more specific. So some of these are, I am not enough. I don't deserve. I am not valued. I'm imperfect. I have to earn attention and affection. I don't belong. I don't matter. So those are just a few possible scenarios behind you caring what other people think. So at minimum, can you question your thoughts a little bit more, especially when you get into the situation where that feeling comes up of like, oh, if I post this, what are people going to think? Or, oh, if I say this, what are people going to think of me? What are they talking about when I do this thing? If you have those thoughts, which we all do, again, especially in the age of social media, and especially if you are an entrepreneur, you putting yourself out there in order to grow your business comes with a side of what will they think? It's just the way that it is. But can we become more aware and question the thoughts that come up? So if you notice yourself going down this rabbit hole, get real with yourself. Where is this coming from? What story is behind this situation where I have this emotion? Remember, your emotion stems from a thought. Your thought stems from a belief, so we can work backwards into figuring out. So is that situation proving it true that I am not valued? Or proving it true that I have to earn attention and affection? Or proving it true that I don't belong? Get curious with what's going on in that scenario. And then also ask yourself a few questions to bring yourself back into reality and what I like to call proving yourself wrong. So we have to prove our subconscious programming wrong time and time and time again. That is how we create a new program. So ask yourself, is this actually happening? Is it true? Do I know for sure that it's true? Do I have any evidence? So for instance, in my scenario, I'm worrying about, now my friends are all talking behind my back about how I don't want to be part of the gift exchange. And so I'm thinking all of these things. And I stop myself, is that actually happening? Like, do I know for sure that that's happening? Do I have any evidence? No, I don't. They probably don't care at all, to be honest. I can almost guarantee you they don't care. It was not that big of a situation, and we're all in close to 40 at this point. So we're beyond talking behind other people's backs and things like that. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't happening. But in that moment, I was so taken into that scenario that was so similar to what I experienced when I first started all of this in 6th grade, that I couldn't pull myself out of it until I actually brought myself back to reality to be like, this is actually probably not happening. It's not true. I have no evidence. I do not know for sure. And the same thing probably goes for a lot of your situations too. You'll find that you're making it up, that you're having a reaction based on something that is completely unconfirmed, totally false, probably not happening, and at the very minimum, you just have no idea. So you're making up a reaction based on something that you do not have confirmation is actually happening or going to happen. So if you are worried about what other people will think of you or say about you, if you post something on Instagram, or if you share your story on a podcast episode, or if you show up on a YouTube video and start doing YouTube videos, if you're worried about that, bring yourself back to reality. Do you actually know that's going to happen? Do you have any proof, any evidence that that would happen? So are you making up that reaction? And where does that reaction come from? Again, if you can't quite find that actual starting point, the full experience that created that programming, even if you just know some of the stories behind it, that will be plenty. All right, now let's move on to properly managing it. Few ideas here. The first thing is to keep your intention front and center. As long as you know your intention and are sure that your intention is good, because we are all Unstuck listeners. We all have good intentions. We are all really wonderful beings and people. So our intentions are good. And as long as that is the case, then everything else can take a back seat. In my situation, my intention was good because as much as I love my friends, I really wanted this year to pool the money that I would spend on their gift and instead give it to someone in need. That's it. That was my intention. It was a good intention, keeping that front and center and knowing that, and also knowing that my friends can see that too. My friends know the kind of person I am, and that would be something I would potentially want to do. So as long as you have an intention behind you putting yourself out there, behind you saying something, behind you doing something, that is what will matter most. And that is what really brings you back to reality in your own mind too. The second thing is to understand how little people are actually thinking about you. And this really, not to be mean, but we all think that people are thinking of us more than they actually are. And once you realize that everyone's mind is doing the same thing as yours, then you realize that nobody really has time to overly think about anyone else. And this especially relates to social media, putting yourself out there on Instagram, sharing your story on podcasts, sharing your story on YouTube, whatever it is. I'm speaking to my entrepreneurs here, but applies to everyone for sure. Everyone is hyper focused on themselves. Everyone's worrying about what other people think of them, which means there's really not that much room for people to think that much about you and what you're doing and what you just said and what you just did and how your hair looks and that zit you have on your chin. Like, people just don't care. They're too busy worrying about themselves. And that's okay. That is totally okay. So I just want to bring it back to reality for you to let you know that people don't care as much as you think they do. They are not scrutinizing every single thing you do. They're too worried about their own lives. They have too much other stuff going on. They are going to get that message that you're sharing, and it's either going to hit or it's not going to hit, and they're going to move on. And that's that. Moving on, the next way to properly manage caring what other people think of you is to prove yourself wrong, like I just said. But in this case, we are going to do it. We're going to prove ourselves wrong by actually doing it. This I had to do myself when starting my business. I was so worried about being judged. I, started a podcast, had no idea what I was doing, started making videos, had no idea what I was doing, started a blog, no idea, Instagram, no idea, Facebook, no idea. The list goes on. And I had so much fear about what other people would think every time I posted anything, time I wrote about anything or talked about anything. And it's like, as I kept going, it became less and less and less. And when that happened, I was also able to be more and more and more authentic, more connected, more myself. And that's what people really want to see. That's when people really do start connecting with what you have to say instead of just flipping by or not reading or not listening. That is when things really started to make a difference. But I had to get over it. I had to prove myself wrong time and time again. Remember, the way to reprogram your subconscious mind, one of the many different tools that we can use, is to prove it wrong, to start acting in the opposite way, to start saying, yeah, this program isn't actually the truth. Here's what actually happens. So what would you do if you weren't worried about being judged? If you didn't care what anyone thought of you, what would you do? Make a list. That is such a great question. Make a huge list of everything you would do in your life, with your family, with your job, with your business, everything. Make a list, and then you have to do it. Now, you don't have to do all of it. You can take baby steps, but do something to prove yourself wrong. Prove that subconscious programming wrong. And as you do, you'll notice it gets less and less severe. It gets weaker and weaker to the point where, again, we can mute it. Not going to get rid of it entirely, but we can mute it. Number 4, develop a best case and worst case scenario. And I especially like, believe it or not, you're not going to believe this because I am the queen of positive, best case things in all life, but I also love doing a worst case scenario. And this is actually something that we do in the Unstuck Entrepreneur. A worst case scenario of what would happen if I built my dream business kind of thing. So what's the worst that could happen if you did this thing that might make you be judged, or people might start talking behind your back? What's the worst case scenario? And no matter what, you will find out more than likely that you're still going to be okay. You will still be just fine. You'll be safe. You'll be fine. So that's what really matters. Again, part of the process of proving ourselves wrong is to see that you're still going to be okay if you take that step. So worst case scenario, what's the worst that could happen? Number 5, recognize and remember, I think a lot of us know this, but we also tend to forget it, that when other people judge you or criticize you, it's not about you. It's about them. This is so hard to recognize, but also so obvious. And I will tell you that I get negative comments, I get criticism, I get haters, I get trolls. I get that stuff. And every single time, without fail, I can immediately pick out what it is in them that brought up. I can immediately see it. And it's nice because it really helps me see that when I get criticism, when I get judged, it's not about what I said or what I did or my thoughts or emotions or feelings or anything like that. It's about the other person. And as you get judged and as you get criticized, and if you're in business and you're an entrepreneur and putting yourself out there, the bigger you get, the more of that you will get. It is inevitable. But as you do, you will start to pick that out. you will see how that triggered that person and that it has nothing to do with you. Number 6, find your people and be okay that not everyone is your person. You can't be everything to everybody. Not everyone is going to be for you. You are not going to be for everyone. There are people out there that you're going to connect with on so many different levels, and everything you say, whether they agree with it or not, is going to be fine. It's going to be cool. They're going to love you no matter what. And there's going to be people that don't. That they're just, you're not for them. You're not a good match. You're not a good fit. And that's fine too. So you don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to try to please everyone. The people that connect with you are your people, and they are going to connect with you even if you say something weird or dumb or don't wear makeup and take a selfie. Like, it doesn't matter. They're going to love you no matter what. Number 7, minimize time spent with people who do judge you and or have a conversation with them. You might be thinking, and this actually might be something that you've uncovered in finding out your limiting belief, finding out your past story, is that there's someone in your life who does judge you, who does criticize you. Maybe it's a parent or a sibling, another family member, a friend, something like that. If that's the case and you do have someone in your life who is contributing to this belief, then you need to have a conversation with that person, especially if it's not someone that you can spend less time with or you can take a step back from. And you need to have the kind of conversation that's like a keep your opinion to yourself kind of conversation. Like, I don't want to hear that. Your commentary isn't necessary. It's not helpful. I'm going to do my own thing and you do your own thing, and let's keep our opinions to ourselves. So you can have something like that, or you can just take a step back and spend less time with that person if you can, especially while you're building up your unwavering self-love, which is what we're going to talk about in a minute. And as you're working on that, and when you feel like you've gotten there, then you can try again, perhaps, or start having more conversations with them, start spending more time with them. So that's an option too. Now, if it's a case where we're talking putting yourself out there in your business or with your career or on social media, trying something new, whatever it is, what I will say is if you are being bothered by being judged, being criticized in your business with your new endeavors, then don't read the comments. Don't read the comments. Don't read the reviews. Take a step back from them. If you want to make sure that you're not missing anything that would be helpful feedback, then hire someone to read the reviews, have someone on your team, have your partner, have a friend read that stuff so then they can kind of get the gold nuggets out of that and send those to you and not have to see the criticism. Because as I said, it's going to happen. If you have a podcast, if you put out a podcast or a YouTube channel, or if you're on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, you're going to have haters. As you grow, it will happen. And they're trolls. They're not even people that know anything about you or have consumed any of your content. They are out there just to hate on people. And if that affects you, don't read it. So that is an option too. Last little pillar here we're going to talk about today is to learn or remember how to care the most about what you think of yourself. Unwavering self-love and self-acceptance absolutely 100% mutes the fear of being judged. If you are so confident in who you are, confident in your message, confident in your intention, which we talked about earlier, love yourself, accept yourself, respect yourself, trust yourself, then what someone else thinks or says or how they judge or criticize you just doesn't land. It's like you have armor that no one can touch. And so we have to get back to this point where that is something we care the most about and we spend the most time and attention developing in ourselves, because then you become untouchable. Here are some questions to go through. What do you like and love about yourself? So you can like things about yourself and you can love things about yourself that maybe you don't like. Those are different questions. So what do you like and what do you love about yourself? What is your purpose? What do you want out of life? What is your dream life? Or what is your dream business? What are you passionate about? What do you love to do? What lights you up? These are just a few questions, I think, to start connecting you back with yourself, back with your intentions, back with your passion and purpose and values and mission and vision, all the things. And then we also have to work on our self-love and self-acceptance and being absolutely 100% okay with who we are in this moment, just as we are. And there are episodes all about all that stuff in the past. And we'll make sure to link those in the show notes, episodes about self-love and self-compassion and all that good stuff. So we can go back and continue to do that work. Because again, if you are rooted in that, you have armor. And even though your programming may still guide you towards wanting to care what other people think, you'll stop in your tracks the way that I did with my friends this past week to say, what's going on here? This isn't normal. Why am I feeling this way? Where did this come from? And also, I don't have to feel this way. I don't have to think this way. I am confident in my intention. I'm confident in who I am. I love and accept myself regardless. And so I'm going to move on. And then I can move on. And I can continue to do what feels good for me, what feels right for me, what guides me towards my higher purpose and passion and vision. And I can just be me. And people will be drawn to that. And some people won't be. And that's cool too. That is more than okay. All right, so here we are at the end. I hope this gave you something to consider, something to think about, and most importantly, I hope it leads you to push yourself a little bit into doing things that may seem scary or that you may fear being judged or that aren't going with what your subconscious programming wants you to do. And your homework for today is to go back to the beginning and start thinking about when you started caring what other people thought of you and when you started worrying about being judged and criticized. And while you're doing that, can you also start working to, if you haven't already, making a daily practice around your self-love and self-acceptance. And again, I have tools to do so in past episodes, so go back and listen to that if you need to. But really, any of this work is doing that. Any unstuck work you do is getting you there. So continue to make it a daily practice. Make it a non-negotiable part of your day, part of your mindset work, part of your energy work. And that'll wrap it up for today. If you do end up putting yourself out there in a new way that you have been scared to do so up until now, but you're ready to get past your fear of being judged and criticized and do it, and you put yourself out there, let me know. Send me a DM over on Instagram at Shawn Mynar and let me know what you did. I want to hear about it. All right, everybody, until next time, take care.